for joining us this afternoon on our weekly Wednesday afternoon web sessions. This week we'll be digging into the finance section of Business Dynamics 365 and the Business Central product platform. So thanks again for joining us. And as we work through the agenda here this afternoon, please just pop your questions or comments for us in the chat throughout, and we'll address those as we go. But the intention here for this afternoon is to dig a bit deeper on, as I said, the finance solutions from Microsoft Dynamics. What we'll do is just do a bit of a quick pass through what we're seeing in the market and what's driving a lot of the product development and some of the pieces we're hearing from some of you. We'll do a bit of a deeper dive into Business Central, what it is, how you can get started with it, and where it can bring some value into your business today. And with me on the call are my teammates here, Warren and Rosen, and we'll actually do a bit of a live drive-through of Business Central so you can get a better sense of what it is and how it might be applicable to you. So, with that said, what are some of the things that are driving the decisions? I think by and large, a lot of you'll kind of have a couple camps or a couple personas of people. People that have just started in terms of the early startup phase of their business, and they've picked something very simplistic and easy in terms of keeping their chart of accounts and finances somewhat in order. And or they may be working with, I think something we see quite often is that group that they're the subject matter experts in what they do, and they may even be using some outside accounting or outside financial service organizations to help direct them in a fractional capacity from a finance guidance and leadership point of view. So I think one area where we see people start to grow beyond that is when they're starting to bring some of those functions in-house. They want to get more, I'll say, front to back in terms of nature of their platform and extensibility. And often they'll be adding people to the problem. And I think to paraphrase something we've heard from someone here in the last year, we know our business is ready to grow. We just don't know, do we need to grow with investments in people, or do we need to grow with investments in systems, or do we need to grow with a little bit of both? So those are some of the things I think people tend to look at when they're evaluating how they can streamline and unify their finance systems and their operations. And for me, really, it comes back to one of three things. Is it an investment in generating new revenue, accelerating cash flow, or finding cost efficiencies and operational efficiencies, or maybe a little bit of all three, a combination of all three of those? So on the slide here, you'll see a few other pieces where people tend to identify some areas in their business that can use some improvement. I think the number one here on this list for me, if we were to pick one, would be that whole concept of siloed systems and having different pockets or different systems of data pop up around the organization, or not knowing necessarily what the true system of record might necessarily be. Warren, do you have any thoughts or comments on that from your vantage point as someone who spent a considerable number of years in the finance world?
Yeah, just kind of to echo your point on the siloed systems, it kind of dovetails directly into the 2 points above. When you have that, then you end up with duplication of efforts, getting same information in more than one place, and obviously, doing that manually in most cases as well. So I think those are really key factors in that.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to go too in depth on it, but we can certainly talk throughout. In particular on the whole bottom line there around security issues. That's a whole other, I guess, philosophical debate of utilizing public cloud services or on-premise services, but there are, regardless of your path, the status quo tends to put you behind behind in terms of security best practices, and potentially makes you more vulnerable, regardless of whether you're utilizing a public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid scenario. So, what is Business Central in a nutshell? It is Microsoft's short history lesson on the Microsoft Dynamics product stack. Really, Microsoft Dynamics started through a process of acquisition through the mid 1990s and early 2000s. Microsoft acquired a handful of ERP products and built their own business applications as well. So this is really the coming convergence of those platforms. And basically, Microsoft has two flavors of finance and operation products here. Business Central, more targeted to that middle market type of entity. Something where you're maybe 50 to a 5,000 person company even can really take some serious value out of Business Central. But this is Microsoft's cloud ready version of business application of finance business applications that they've been working on and has been now in market for approximately 3.5 years. So what are some of those functional areas, and where do you get started, and how do we drill down and start to piece this apart? For us, I think there's kind of a few core areas. One, obviously, around your general, your chart of accounts and your financial aspects around financial management. So managing your GL, AR, AP aspects. But the next areas where we'll see people start to really take some serious advantage of this is in that projects and job management elements of how you can manage projects and track expenditures back to the jobs that you're working on, manage fixed assets, and as you extend into more of the management operations aspects and supply chain side of things. There are some light capabilities around sales and sales and customer relationship management. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit later as well. Obviously, Microsoft has their own full suite of customer engagement, the customer engagement platform, where there's a whole deeper, richer set of tools around a full marketing automation platform, customer service, virtual agents, and those types of things. But really, those are your advanced solutions, and there is a pretty functional component around sales and service management baked within Business Central. Warren, do you have anything that you want to call out or call attention to here?
No, I think you did a pretty good job. I mean, yeah, from a job or project management perspective, you can have budgets and track costs and revenue to a specific project. You can do some resource scheduling within that as well. There's some manufacturing capability within operations management, and then just on the supply chain, there's fairly robust inventory management from a pricing and costing perspective, as well as physical inventory management and flow and things like that. So pretty all-encompassing overall, and it we'll get a little bit more into some of those areas in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I guess these next couple graphics build upon each other here. So really, the design principle from Microsoft is taking things that are there and integrating with the Microsoft 365 platform. So everyone's really familiar and comfortable with using the Microsoft package around Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. Everyone, I think, more so in the last 2 months in particular, have become very comfortable with, or on the path to becoming comfortable with using Teams anyway on a regular basis. So how do you intertwine these two pieces and make it of value? And I think that's really where you'll see some difference between, I'll say, overall the whole Dynamics product stack is within the design principles from Microsoft. They're really engineering these two pieces to be fit together very, very tightly. But another, I'll say, a third layer on this, if I had a third slide to build on top of it, I would say the other piece would be looking at the Microsoft App Source. And really what the Microsoft App Source is is a collection of organizations or development pieces worldwide where people are developing industry micro vertical components for the business application platform. So Microsoft is producing Dynamics Business Central very much with a global mindset in nature. And then there are a number of different industry and even regional specific solutions that are out there in this marketplace that Microsoft has vetted and certified, that they are certified for Microsoft Dynamics. But the value there is we don't have to recreate the wheel. So if you're I think the dental shop is kind of the one standard example that people can wrap their head around. They'll use Dynamics Business Central as their core financial accounting platform, but for all of their business operations pieces, there's a dental specific add-in where an organization has captured all the business requirements, they've packaged it up, and they've made that a very turnkey plug and play type of solution. So the value to you as the end user is it's plug and play. And it prevents the need to build and customize tailored to you. So it's a faster time to market. Warren, do you have any thoughts on that or anything else around the Microsoft App Source?
I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, new things are being added regularly. There's definitely a huge amount of options out there, from small little apps that just kind of have one specific function to a complete additional or incremental module that handles the whole specific business vertical, like you had suggested with the dentist office. So there's a lot of variety, and it's growing.
So I know thematically the term optimize operations gets thrown around, but what does that really mean? And where and how can people start to optimize things? I know maybe the current climate we're living in here with a lot of conversation around what do supply chains look like in the future, and how do we maybe re-architect or reinvent some supply chains. I don't think we have time to necessarily dive into that conversation at a deeper level, but certainly looking at a platform like this where relatively simplistically you can start to have better line of sight to what your demand looks like and what your ordering process and somewhat some of your delivery timelines look like. I think that's something that people are interested in looking at further. A lot of the manufacturing specific and warehousing pieces, they are there, and there are some really good tailor-made and well thought out, well-designed add-in components around Business Central that are in that Microsoft App Source that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Some of those are things like barcode scanning or implementing a QR code on equipment for simplistic scanning and inventory tracking purposes. Those types of solutions. Those are things that once you have kind of the core financials in place, you can grow into, and these pieces tend to slot in very nicely. And actually, I think something we might be looking at later on in future weeks on some of these web series. So stay tuned for some of that. Warren, do you have any comments you want to make around the warehousing demand planning side of things?
I think you covered that one pretty well, Luke.
From a customer service point of view, I think we just have some good pieces here, and this will really show itself. I won't go too much in depth on this, but as Rosen gets through the demo here, we'll see a bit around the whole order process and being able to see what's there and some of these recommended cross-sell, upsell type of solutions here, where utilizing a lot of the baked-in AI pieces that Microsoft is really starting to infuse throughout their product stack. That's one thing that I think you'll see here pop out pretty effectively. And then perhaps the other would be the seamless integration within the whole mail client and the Outlook experience. And let's come back to the whole concept of security, privacy, accessibility. I think a couple blanket statements here, and of course we can drill down on all of this, and everyone's circumstances are unique and different. As an overgeneralized statement, I think the comment would be we can tailor this to whatever your mind could conceive or believe. I think the solution can be, there's always a solution out there, but as a general rule, out of the box, I think Microsoft is striving for a couple key things that are just standard fare, and those really are data compliance and data privacy and a consistent user experience across any device. And I know that in particular around that user experience piece, having used these things myself for a number of years, it wasn't always a consistent user experience. It was one experience on the desktop, another experience on the mobile device, another experience in the mail client. A lot of that you're seeing go away, and I think that's a big win, that people can contextually pick it up regardless of where it is, and you can have the same experience. Somebody that's working with it on a shop floor from a tablet is able to communicate within the organization to somebody who's sitting in an office working behind a desk, and they have the same UI and same experience. And a lot of that, the same common data platform that's functioning underneath all of this as well. And I think if you sat on some of the previous sessions we did, we went into more depth around the whole ability to tailor and personalize experiences around applications. So ability to make it a very tailor-made to the user. So there's a user element in the design of this that I think maybe didn't really exist to that level before. The other thing is GDPR and GDPR compliance. So a lot of forethought, certainly from the design in this product and the way the GDPR compliance is built in, and something you don't have to worry. That risk is managed by Microsoft. It's not something that you have to worry about managing. Any comments or thoughts just around the security and permissions side of things, Warren, that maybe we want to talk about just before we hop into the demo environment?
Just more application specific. I mean, the Business Central comes with several predefined permission user sets that can be set up based on individual requirements, and then those can be kind of tailored to suit specific situations as well. So, definitely room to work there for segregation of duties and stuff like that within the application and transaction processing and whatnot.
Okay, perfect. Well, Rosen, why don't I hand it over to you and give you the screen to share, and we can see what we've actually been theoretically talking about here in practice.
Sure. Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button here for a second. So, okay, are you? Okay, I believe you're able to see the screen now. So I'm just going to
yes.
this. All right. So this is the role center page of Business Central. You can think of it as a home page. So it's a starting point of when you first enter into Business Central, you'll see this page. And it's driven primarily by the dashboards that you see here are primarily driven by the different roles that you have within the system. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to hop into settings for a second. Under my settings, there are a list of predefined roles that comes with the system. So things like business manager or accountant or HR manager, project manager. So these are the list of different roles that you have within the system, and based on that role, you'll be able to see different dashboards. So that's what you can do in the settings page. And then the other thing you can, while I'm navigating through this window, is the company. So if you have different types of companies, you can easily navigate to different companies this way. So here I have demo shops, but then if there is other companies, so let's say demo shop B or C, you'll be easily able to switch into a different company. And then you can set different languages as well. So if it's outside of English, there are many different languages that you can select from. Okay, so let me just go back and stick with the business manager for now. At the top here, you will see the navigation menu. So within each header, like finance or cash management, there'll be a list of different pages that you can access. So there are sales. So sales in Business Central would mean all of your receivable documents, as well as the payables documents. So that would be purchasing. So it's all within the header itself. And as I scroll down, you'll also see action items. So if you need to quickly enter in a transaction, so for example, if you need to put in a new sales code or create a new customer or a vendor, you can certainly use this quick action menu and then click on a new card and then be able to enter right away. Further down, these are your activities. So these are cue cards within the system. The first style you'll see is more of a overall balance of the system. So you have your sales invoice, and then you have your purchasing as well. And it's color coded. So for those who are a little bit more on the visual side of things, you can color code your invoices this way. So green in this case would mean that you're still okay. You don't need to make any actions to it. And then yellow, it's more of a warning sign, meaning you might look at it on a day-to-day basis, but you're still okay to not take any actions. And then if there are any reds, so any red colors, that could be an indication of, okay, we need to take actions, something is wrong. So this can be very helpful for those who like that visual aspect of it. And then here at the bottom, same thing, but these are more of a list. So in terms of total quantity, what's out there, so what are the purchase invoices that are due next week? You can certainly click on any one of these cards, and then you'll see the list of invoices. Okay, as I scroll through, you'll see insights. So to the left here, you'll see business assistance. So these are just one of the different reports that are available within system, and certainly there are a lot more as well. So if you click on here and then click select chart, these are some of the other KPIs that's available. And at any given point, you can scroll through and you'll be able to click on one of these indicators, and it'll drive you to a different page, so you can actually go further and then look down to the transaction level. Some of the other features here, there is a setup guide topics section. So if you are new to Business Central and you probably would like this at the homepage, you can certainly include this here. So that you can have it to read it on a day-to-day basis, or you can simply remove this if you don't need it. So it is a little bit configurable in terms of having different tiles available in the homepage. This is certainly something that you can either include it or remove. And here to your left, you'll see favorite accounts. So if you have any GL accounts that you will be viewing on a day-to-day basis, such as your cash account or your receivables or your total expenses, you can certainly add that to your favorite account, and then you'll be able to navigate to the balance from here. To your right is your trial balance. So I have it here from November to December transactions. So let me just actually go ahead and select one of them, for instance. I will select for the month of November of 2019. You'll see the GL account and then the totaling of all the GL accounts. So if you click on the amount, you'll be able to see all of the GL distributions that make up that amount. And you can even go further one step down and navigate into the actual invoice itself. So here where it says posted purchase invoice, so that would be your AP invoice. You can click on that one entry and you'll be able to look into your historical record from here as well. And within this navigation window, you'll also be able to see some of the other subledger entries for that specific invoice. So your GL distributions, your vendor ledger entries, and then if it has any project management expenses, you'll be able to see the subledger for that as well. So. Let me just go back to the main page. Power BI reports is embedded within the within a lot of the pages here. It's also embedded within the Role Center page. So there are some not custom. There are some out-of-the-box reports that Business Central does provide for you. So, for example, these are all of the list of different companies that you will have access to if you have different companies within your one tenant. So let me just be more specific and to look into this demo shop company. These are all of the reports that come in out of the box. And if you have a power user, you can definitely take this report and then manipulate the report itself and then upload it back into this Power BI dashboard, and you'll be able to see it from within this Role Center page. And here, the last item at the bottom, you have your report inbox. So if you are viewing your financial statements on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you can actually schedule your report so that you don't have to always go into the searching for that one report and then printing it. You can actually just schedule it so that you would just come and navigate to this report inbox here and then download the financial statements. At any point, you can always move this all the way up to the top. So wherever, however that you would like to see the different dashboards, you can navigate and move things around. Now let me just go to the top here. Okay, sorry, just one second. And one other thing, notice here at the top right section where it says demo, these are custom badges that you can have within your system. So sometimes what some of the users would like to do is they'll make a copy of the production environment, and they might test out some business processes. So if you are doing that, this custom badge can help with that as well. So that will determine whether you are actually on the production company or you might be on a sandbox environment. You can actually create this custom badge so that you can determine which one, if it's production or if it's sandbox or if it's just a test company. Using this custom badge might help as well. And to the left, top left, I'll just quickly take you to the app launcher here. So as Luke was mentioning earlier, there are some integration with some of the Office 365 products, as well as Dynamics 365 products, and you'll be able to see all of those apps within this app launcher. And one of those apps is the Outlook integration. So let me just do a demonstration of how the Outlook integrates with Business Central. So I actually have it as a tab open, and it's already ready to view. So I made a sample email, which is asking basically for a sales code. So this is a recurring customer, and it's asking for the specific item. So you have this one where for a chair and a speaker, and to avoid going directly to the Business Central, you can actually navigate from the Outlook itself. So if you click on More Actions, and at the bottom here, under Business Central, you click on Contact Insights. And when you do that, you'll be able to see the contact and its corresponding customer. So this contact is linked to a specific customer. And you'll be able to see the record of those customers as well. So if there's anything ongoing, sales invoices that maybe perhaps that are a little bit on the overdue side, you can actually find out from the screen and be able to send them a quick reminder that there is some overdue invoices. And you can also see some of the sales activity. So is this customer one of those customers that maybe they do a little bit more businesses more frequently? You can just navigate and view those records from within this Outlook screen. So for this example, it's asking for a sales code. So let me just click on this new button and hit sales code. And there is some AI that's instilled within the Business Central. So when it reads the email, it'll try to determine which item that is referring to. So one of them says loudspeaker. So it's asking, do you mean this loudspeaker white that we have within the system or the base speaker? So let me just go ahead and select both, for example, and I'm just going to hit yes. what I'll do now is I'll pop the screen open. So now it's a little bit narrow. So if you want, you can actually have the ability to pop this into a new window. And from here, you can determine the quantity that they're asking for. So this was, I believe, I'm not sure, 10, 12. I'll just randomly give them all 3 different items here. And then you'll be able to send it back to them. So send by email. This email template has been automatically generated, and the sales code has been attached to the email body, to the email header, and then you can just hit OK, and it'll be sent to the back to that contact. So the sales code is done and it's been sent. So let me just pop back into Business Central now. So I'll just close this Outlook. Now to continue on with that example, typically assuming a few days have passed, and then now the customer has come back to you, and you are looking to maybe adjust some of those sales code, or even perhaps convert that into an invoice. You can certainly do so by clicking on sales code, and then you'll see that sales code has been already generated within the system. So when you create a sales code with the Outlook, a record of it will be created within the system as well, so you don't have to do that twice. So let me just click on the sales code that we just sent over.
Rosen, do you think you maybe could just zoom in on your browser there and increase the font size on your screen?
Okay.
A little easier to see, I think.
Okay, I increased to, okay, that might be too much. Is that better?
I think that's great, yeah.
Okay. So now you have the sales code within the system. So if you need to make any changes, you can certainly do so here. Some of the other functionality that exists within system is, as I mentioned, if you are now converting that into an order, sales order, or an invoice, however it is your business process, you can certainly do that from here. Other functionality that exists is you can also copy documents. So assuming that sometimes if it's a recurring customer, you can certainly use this copy document and always copy the lines over. So you don't have to always come in here and then type in the lines. You can certainly use this copy documents and then copy it from the other existing documents. And if you have any process in place where you require some sort of approval, you can certainly use the request approval and then send an approval request. So whoever is your approver will then approve, and then you will be able to post the sales code. And then you can always send. So whenever you are ready to post a document, you don't have to print out the PDF file. You can certainly just hit by send by email, and then it will be it will populate that email body, and you will be able to send that email directly from within the system. And if there is any discounts, it will be automatically applied. So for instance, if there is something that's applied, so let's say here, one of these items, I know that anything that's greater than a certain amount, a special price will be applied to it. So you can certainly, wait, I used the wrong. You'll see that the unit price has changed from 115 to 100. So any of the price or discounts will be applied automatically. Okay, so that's the sales cycle. Let me just go back into the main page. And then I'll now go into items. So we were quickly discussing items earlier, those 2 items. So let me see what those items live within Business Central. Just taking a few seconds to upload. So this is where you have your existing list of items. As you can see, there are different columns, such as your name of your items, how much quantity is on hand, so and you can always toggle whether by ascending or descending. And this is across the board. So within any given page, not just the items, let's say you have your customers or your vendors, you have that ability to toggle by alphabetically or numerically. So you have that capability. And then, as you can see, you have unit cost and unit price for each item. And you can also do a quick search. So from within the page itself, let's say you were looking at that speaker, so you can just quickly type in speaker and it will populate those speakers for you. You can also use the filter here, which is this funnel looking icon. And let's say, for example, you are looking to see what else exists within the system that is related to chairs. So by putting on this wildcard and tapping it over, there's no chairs. You'll see the list of chairs that are within system, and you can save this filter as well. So if I click on Save As, you can say chairs. And when you do that, that way you don't have to come in and do your filters all over again. You can simply save it and then use that filter to always pull up this list. And again, this is across the board. It's not just for items. So if you are grouping your chart of accounts by certain expenses or all of your revenues, you can use this save filter and do so on the other pages as well.
Hey, Rosen, I'll just hop in quickly here. There was a question just back to the quoting about tracking the quote and opportunity and D365 sales. I think that would definitely be an option. I may let Luke speak more to the specific D365 side. We're just demonstrating the Business Central capabilities here, and there is some light CRM capabilities within Business Central itself that we're going to touch on a little later on. Really what we're trying to demonstrate here is just the integration and the ability to move that transaction right from an email through the different sections in Business Central without having to re-enter or anything like that.
Okay, thanks, Warren. And lastly here, I'll just quickly show this fact box. So what the fact box is whatever record that you are in, it'll just give a little bit of information pertaining to that record. So for example, here you will see that these are some of the costing methods that's been applied for that item. So you have it's using FIFO item, what the unit cost is, what the profit percentage is, and what the unit price is, as well as you can do some inventory planning as well. What are the reordering policies? Is it going to be a fixed quantity, or is it going to be based on a certain level? So these are some of the plannings that you can do within the system, and you can also have a safety lead time and a minimum and maximum order for each of those items. And here, as you can see, these are some of the attributes for those items. You can include those as well. And is there anything else that you want to add, Warren?
No, I think you did a good job there, Rosen. I mean, I would just kind of like we alluded to at the beginning, there's a lot of capability as far as from the planning perspective that Rosen just touched on a little bit, cost and price tracking, and also physical inventory management as far as physical tracking, physical movement from warehouse locations, bins, and things like that. If you deep dive into that module and functionality.
Okay. All right. So let me go back into the home page. And now I'm just going to switch over to reporting. So in Business Central, the standard financial reporting, it's called account schedules. So if you click on account schedules, and while I'm here, so this is the other way to navigate to different pages. So using the search icon, you can, if the page does not exist within the Role Center, you can certainly use the search icon, and it's global. So within any page, it'll be available. So if you are moving from one module to another totally unrelated modules, you can certainly use that global search, and it will navigate to that page. So So now I'm just going to click on account schedules, and I will go into the reports. You will see a list of different reports available. Some are standard, that's out of the box, and then some we have revised them. So you can create your own report as you see fit, or you can use one of the standard reports and you can just make changes to that as well. So I'll just use this one here for income statement, and I'll just do a quick overview of it. So at the top here, you have your general information. So you have, if there's any filters that you would want to set, you can certainly do so. So I'm just going to change this to the year for last year. I know that there are some data that exists within 2019. That's a little bit more. And then if I scroll down over to the lines of the report itself, I'm just going to scroll back and navigate out. So here, what I've done here is you have all of your different columns, and what each column represents is a different division or a different cost center within this one example. And so in Business Central, there is a concept of dimensions, which you can basically flag a specific transactions, and you can attach that to that one particular dimension. And then you'll be able to track it that way. So in this specific scenario, what I've done is I've created a dimension called cost centers, and these are all of the different cost centers that exist within the system. So for example, communication or HR, finance, so these are different values, and any of the data, any of the transaction that's already existing within the system has flagged this particular dimension to it. So you'll be able to see all of the record once it's been flagged. So let me just narrow that down to specifically communication. So if I use communication cost center, you'll be able to see only the communication filter. So from here, these are the amount that relates to communications. And I've also used another dimension called department. So I created that department. So if you have any administration or some of the other examples are if it's a government institution, large, medium, small businesses, you can certainly click one of those dimensions, and a combination of a large company and a communication will give you this amount. So so that's a large company, and if you want, you can also select medium company, and it will give you a different amount based on that combination. So let me just quickly click on one account, one of these records here, and you'll be able to see all of these. That one row it encompasses all of these GL accounts, and then if I select that proper GL account with that balance, you will see the different records. So let me just click on that, and then so that $200,000 is for this one particular invoice. And again, similar as I showed you earlier, you can navigate down to the actual invoice itself. So that's one advantage the account schedule has, is that that's different from Excel reporting, is that you will be able to drive down to the transaction level. So and at any point you can always export this out to an Excel, and you'll be able to manipulate further. So that's what I have for account schedule. Anything you want to add, Warren, to that?
Just to add on to the concept of dimensions, so kind of like Rosen suggested, it's basically a transactional marker that'll flow down to your general ledger and then some of the other subledgers as well, that gives you the ability to slice and dice information, whether it be from your general ledger, customer sales ledger, items, things like that. The account schedules, you can users can configure this, and you can have as many different types or styles of reports as you want, and as detailed or summary level as you want. You would define specific GL accounts or account ranges to give you one number on the line. That's how Rosen was demonstrating the coming up with different amounts under communications when he was using the different filters. So the power of that is that it allows you to have one natural GL account number, and then the dimension is that additional flag that's added on at the transactional level. versus having segmented accounts. So it can, it definitely, for the accountants out there, it rolls into a much cleaner chart of accounts for you to work with.
Okay, so let me switch things over now. Earlier I had talked about the idea of having different roles. So why don't we quickly now switch things over to the CRM side of Business Central. So I'm going to switch this to a sales and relationship manager. And you'll notice that there'll be a different set of dashboards available for the CRM piece. So here at the top navigation menu, you'll see that now it's more, the pages are more pertaining to somewhat of a salesperson. And then to quickly go through the role center, you'll see that there's a sales pipeline. So within Business Central, you can create different sales cycles, and you can define what those stages are within sales cycles. So for example, here for we named it an existing sales cycle. So these are for your existing customers. You can have this different stages. So you have initial, presentation, proposal, signing contract. It doesn't have to be 4 stages. It depends on your company. So if it's only 3 stages that you have, you can certainly create those with 3 stages. And within each stage, you can have you can set a percentage of completion for each stage, as well as a chance of success as you navigate and you update your stages. And there's also another one for if it's a new customer. It'll be somewhat similar, but then there's this qualification piece to it that you can add.
Hey, Rosen, just to interrupt quickly, can you zoom in a bit again if you're able?
Oh, sure. Okay, is that better, or should I zoom in more?
I think that's probably okay.
Okay, I'll just go a little bit more. To your right of the sales pipeline is the opportunities. So some of these opportunities are whether it's won, lost, in progress, not started. You can certainly look at this pie chart and then select a period, and you'll see, depending on the sales people that's involved, you can see what are the different opportunities that they have. And that's just a built-in report from the system. So this one is showing the top 5 opportunities and the customers. So at any point, you can select the customer, and you'll be able to navigate to the page and see what are the opportunities that exist. And to your left, these are your activities. So some of the things that you can look into are your contacts. So contacts, whether it's for a company or individuals, you'll be able to see a list of those individuals and be able to interact with those contacts that's available. And what else is there? There's also the active campaign. So earlier, one of the discount that I had applied was for a speaker. So I actually started a active campaign within that date range. So it gave a 10% discount on that specific item, and that's because it's included. It's part of this active campaign. So these are some of the CRM activities that you can have within the system. So you can also assign tasks as well. So whenever you run through a sales stage, for example, let me just go back up to the sales pipeline. Whenever you run through a sales stage, so let's say you are in the initial stage, you have different task activities. You can actually assign them, or you can create as you go. So you can have some sort of a standard process within your company. So, and these are all defined by each company. So let me now go over to and switch over again once more. I will then choose and show a little bit of the project management piece to it. So I'll just select project manager. So projects within Business Central, it's called jobs. So again, you'll have different dashboards. so just to show you some of the different reports that are available within the project management module, you can see that these are all of the standard out-of-the-box reports that are existing. And then as well, there are some employee reports here for you as well if you have any timesheets and you are managing employees for that job. So these are just some of the built-in reports. And then as I scroll through, these are some of the activities related to that project management. So if you have any invoices that are due or anything that's completed, you can certainly go through from this card. And as I scroll through under Insights, this is some of the reports, built-in reports that is using your data for those jobs. So it does the actuals to budget comparison for price, actual to budget comparison for cost, and then your profitability. So, and as I scroll through, you'll have your timesheet. So if you are approving any timesheet for employees or contractors, you can certainly, you'll see a flag here, and then and you would just go ahead and then approve those timesheets. So to quickly show you how a job is broken down, let me just click on a completed job. At the top here at the header level, you'll see some of the general information related to that particular job. So again, it's pretty straightforward. It's based on a customer, and for this instance is for the Government of Canada. So I'll just leave that alone. And then here, this is where you would budget your different tasks. So if you have, there are ways where you can actually narrow it down and to have it into different tasks. So you can, each one of these tasks, you can treat it as more of a work breakdown structure, some of your WBS task lines, and you can assign a specific budget to it that will then, when you do a actual to budget comparison, you will see that each of the different budget line and then have it compared to the actual task. So what that means is, let's say, assuming you have some expenses, and if you are tracking the expenses, you can, all you would simply have to do is reference the job card number and then reference the tasks number, and you will see the actual within this job card. So let me just go ahead and select one of them. So I'll just select the equipment costs. And you will see that that is specific to this GL account. And if there is an invoice, you'll be able to navigate down to the actual invoice. So in this case, there is no invoice just because it was tracked through a journal entry. So, but you can see the actual ledger entries here as well. And that's your job card. So is there anything else that you can add, Warren?
No, high level. I think you covered it nicely, Rosen.
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much for the demonstration, a high-level demonstration on some of the other different modules that exist within the system, Luke.
So, perfect. Well, that was excellent, Rosen. I'll put you on the spot here. Someone asked me this question a little while back, and as we were going through some of the stuff we do, I thought it was a great question, so I'll ask you the same. What do you think is innovative about this vis-a-vis other accounting packages and platforms and finance systems you have used in the past?
Oh, sorry, Warren, you can go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, this represents kind of Business Central at the core with some of the functionality we discussed, and then the next layer would be some of the additional apps that you can source through the app store, like Luke had mentioned, and then the Dynamics 365 product obviously layers on the side of that as well, all surrounded by the overarching Microsoft Common Data platform that Luke had kind of shown earlier in the slides. So Business Central is kind of that core ERP system, whether it's just from a financial perspective or getting into operations. And then there's all these other things that can be layered on top and integrated with, depending on, what your business needs. So it's quite scalable. You just kind of, take what you need out of it. You don't have to get the whole works.
Well, that's just it, exactly. And on that vein, I know this is a very Microsoft-oriented graphic, but I do want to maybe just put it up here for anybody who is trying to wrap their head around everything here. This does have a bit of a manufacturing distribution type of flavor to it. However, just the message here, just think around extensibility, scalability, and growing into it. And really, the piece off to the left-hand side in the blue, that really is the customer engagement platform. I think we had a question in the chat throughout the presentation on whether or not we start to track sales opportunities and quotes towards our CRM and our sales module, or if we start to be tracking that towards finance and working from Business Central. The reality is, I guess, who's the person tracking the activity, right? And it really can be laid out and tailored so that it's a set of applications and a set of solutions for the user, as opposed to one standard look and feel. So just take that for what it's worth in terms of a graphic if you're interested. Next, just kind of a summary here, a few good resources we've found out and about in the world that might be of use to you. I know there's a certain gentleman, with Inecta University, he's based in New York City. He calls himself the Nav Viking, but he's an Icelandic guy with a giant beard, and actually a really nice fellow. But he's kind of got a nice little blog series and set of videos if you want to check him out. But with that, we'll go to questions. I think we have one here. Yeah, we're just starting up. Would finance software be overkill? Who wants to hop on that one? Warren, Rosen?
Yeah, I can grab that one. No, I don't think so. I mean, kind of like we've alluded to, it is Business Central is extremely scalable. Even though all of the functionality that we have is inherent in the system, you only need to use what is applicable. So if you have 1 or 2 users out of the gate and you just need a basic GL, AR, and AP functionality, that's all that needs to be configured. And then you have the comfort level to know that as your business grows, as you get more employees, you can add users as needed or remove for that matter. You're not committed to a big block of licenses or anything like that. And you can grow the system with you. If inventory comes into play a year down the road or 2 years down the road, no problem. You just work to configure that, layer it on top of what's already there, and it can just go with you. But right out of the gate, you do have some of that standard reporting functionality, the integration of the modules and things like that. So I think it's a good starting point for any business.
Perfect. And just keeping an eye on the time here, want to be cautious of everyone's calendar and schedule here. So one last question maybe before we conclude here. I have some staff that aren't technically savvy, and how much training is involved? So I'll say that's certainly a bit of a loaded question here. I think there's certainly an ongoing element of perpetual learning, but just from a product roadmap point of view, Microsoft is putting out 2 major releases, spring and fall, in terms of enhancements. So I think there's obviously some upfront learning and investments and orientation that you'll need to make around that. I think there's a lot of ability with utilizing things like the Power Platform and standing up mobile apps for role-based scenarios where certain people may have a need to input data formally on a clipboard out in the field, and that can be pushed into Business Central via Power Apps, as an example. So utilizing some of those things to minimize the need for training, but I think having a suitable training plan and training resources are something you want to plan for sure. With that, I'll maybe just pop over to our last slide here. I know we do have a few webinars scheduled out for the month of May here at this point, and looking to turn this into a somewhat of a regular piece of our business now that we're working in a more remote fashion on an ongoing basis. And I think a lot of businesses might be doing so more so going forward. So next week we'll be talking about some other crisis management tactics, and on that same vein of mobile data capture from forms. So we'll be inviting some folks in from a company called Cosmos Forms, and they actually utilize a lot of the Power Platform mobile data forms, and then can push directly into any business application or business platform you might be using, whether that's Business Central or something else. So thanks again for everyone's time and joining us here. And if you have any feedback, good, bad, or otherwise, we're certainly happy to hear it. Thanks, and have a good afternoon.